The purpose of today's session really was to talk to people who are using the game with clients in the field who've used the board game, the app and the web version, and really get a feel for the different ways that it's being used and the potential for future use.
I think really useful from a user perspective, a carer perspective or professional perspective, because it's in a range of formats, the game, the iPad, the PC version, it sort of blends into people. What's really nice is the way it drills down into what's important to you, and you can play it at any time that suits you, in the format that suits you. And it helps you focus really on the things that are important to you at that point in time. And it allows you to think of, these are the things important to me at this point in time, what are the resources that I can access? And because it drills down into Staffordshire Cares, it gives you a range of options to consider. Choices about how you might want to lead your life, manage your finances, things to think about. And it gives you a sort of a priority, so you can decide what you want to do first and maybe look at the others later.
My team have used all the formats actually. We've used the board game as well as the iPad version, predominantly with adults with disabilities. We've found it a really useful tool to gain information from people, particularly people who perhaps can't articulate sort of sometimes their own needs and priorities and wishes. And we've used that to inform our sort of assessments and plans that we put together for people. But I think the iPad version in particular is very interactive, it's really fun, it's a really innovative way of engaging with people, and generally it's been really, really positive. The other thing we found it really, really useful for is where you've actually got perhaps a couple of people in the same household, so perhaps you've got sort of an adult with a disability living with mum or dad, actually playing the game with both mum and dad, or you know, whoever the person, you can actually compare the results, and sometimes they actually collaborate with each other, but sometimes actually it's a good way of actually engaging with parents to say, you know, these are the priorities of your disabled sort of, you know, adult. You know, let us actually look at some of the risk assessment and actually sort of putting that together in a plan, and that's been something we've not done a huge amount of, but I think there's a lot of scope to use it like that as well.
Well, I've used it with a group of that meet who've got hearing loss, Coffee and Company group, and they're sort of older, over 60, most of them in the group, who haven't really used technology like that before. And they just ran with it really. They had a really good time and ended up showing each other how it worked. After being shown 5 minutes later, they were instructing each other, and they just loved the ease of use of it, and it gave them a real focus. They were able to sort of focus down on what was important to them, and one or two of them were quite surprised at when it came out at the end what was important to them. It wasn't what they thought it was. My group really liked the fact that you could print it off at the end, because with hearing loss it can be often difficult to sort of, you know, hear what's going on over the phone, and the fact that you can sort of access this and then actually take it, you know, and show it to a partner or a friend, and it's sort of, you're not having to write everything down. It's there. You've gone through the process, and it sort of highlights the things that you might not have thought were important to you. You know, you're focusing on one thing, but when you've actually been through it, you realise that actually all these other things are important to you as well.
Well, I've used it with a group of individuals who want to become a user-led organisation, and I thought it went really well when we had a group session to try and introduce decision making and making choices together as a group. We sat around, played the board game, so each individual could look at different aspects of their lives and discuss them together in their own smaller groups around what best support they need. They found it really easy. It was a creative way of making decisions, a creative way of working together, and a lot more fun and interesting than being sat around asking people questions. So it was a really good, interactive, creative and enjoyable way of facilitating the group session.
Like you say, you know, you may actually be prioritising the top sort of half a dozen priorities at this particular point in time, but 12 months down the line, you might want to revisit it all.
Well, when things are stable, really, you'd hope, you go, well, things are settled now, so where do we go from here?
And things change as well, don't they? So.
To recommend that people use it before they actually go out and do that assessment. You know, if they've got an assessment booked, you know, can you perhaps have a look at the website, have a go at doing this? That way, when it comes to the assessment and putting a support plan together, the person's already had a fair bit of involvement in shaping what they actually want. They might not realise certain things, you know, like we've been saying. So I think that'd be a great way to benefit the whole sort of care pathway.
Well, from a corporate point of view, we have to look at it really as how effective it can be as a consultation tool, really. And we found it very interesting, very user-friendly. It's good that it makes decisions based on outcomes that people actually want. People's priorities and needs can be then transferred into how we can inform future service delivery. We found that it can be very interactive, used with a diverse range of people, and I think the future challenge really is to how we can use it as a consultation tool and how we can promote it to partners and how we can access and report the data that's collected from how we can, if we use it as a consultation tool.
I think as a transition worker, I work with sort of teenagers, say 14 plus, and I think this technology is going to be really useful in getting them to engage in another way as well, not just sitting in a classroom or sitting at a computer, being able to do it where they want and with their families. Because I found it particularly useful in introducing the transition as well, the sort of getting used to adult social care, what is out there. Families are often quite daunted by the whole process, and it's a starting point. There are things out there. But there's also mainstream things out there as well. It's not just access food, social services. So it acts as quite a good signposting in areas as well, I felt.